The Sri Lankan Navy says that the investigations report on the controversial Avant Garde floating armoury, which is anchored in the Galle Seas, will be handed over to the Ministry of Defence tomorrow. The floating armoury entered Sri Lankan waters from Sudan on the 5th of this month.
The MV Avant Garde vessel is currently anchored in the seas off the Galle harbour. The Navy began investigations after the information given by the captain of the vessel was deemed false. The vessel is currently under the custody of the Navy.
When the Navy brought the vessel to the harbour on the 6th of October, the Ministry of Defence issued a letter which read that the Senior Additional Secretary had notified the Navy that the Avant Garde vessel carrying arms had been permitted to enter the country and to hand over the arms to the Rakna Arakshaka Lanka Limited. This vessel comes to the island and offloads its arms at the Galle harbour. The armoury at the BMICH is Rakna Lanka's. Then why is the Avant Garde accepting the arms on its behalf? The arms aboard the floating armoury are handed over subsequently. The floating armoury is free of arms. Then they are able to safeguard the vessel. They have 3 vessels under their name. The 2 other vessels will be brought to the shores soon. If this has been given clearance, then the other 2 vessels could be on course towards the island. These are not issues one is not aware of. The whole country is aware that there are politicians backing this. Why are they so relentlessly fighting for this? This is in order to safeguard the name of Avant Garde. It is very clear that this is an act of corruption, this fraud, a massive fraud which happened in the country. There is no way of bringing this to light. When this comes to light, the AG makes a statement before the court that the case lacks evidence to proceed. Then why do we need an AG in the first place? The AG's responsibility is to mete out justice for the country, to ensure law and order and to challenge the government. And if the AG, who should be investigating cases pertaining to the government, is saying that this lacks evidence, then we are of the view that the AG needs to step down. The AG not at any point has issued orders to halt investigations or to withdraw the case pertaining to Avant Garde. He had clearly stated through writing that there are no submissions that could be made under a criminal charge, as the Firearms Act does not have provisions to proceed with the case. The reason for this is that all this is being controlled through the provision granted by the Ordnance Act. If the Minister of Defence is permitting a certain activity, then no criminal charge could be imposed. Under the Ordnance Act, we cannot file a case. However, the decision reached by the Minister of Defence could come under a discretionary treatment. But he had issued advice to the police through writing about the case pertaining to Avant Garde and incidents of corruption surrounding it, saying that if any information emerges in this regard, to forward it to the Bribery Commission. However, the Bribery Commission is carrying out further investigations in this regard. Deputy Solicitor General Sobita Rajakaruna made a statement in Kandy saying that the top tier of the Ministry of Defence had granted permission for a floating armoury to proceed, and also added that the AG is unable to challenge this as permission had already been granted. We have not come across this sort of law before. This law is just one of a kind. Therefore, we would like to clearly state that this is a breach of law, and that this also is a breach of the Firearm Ordinance, and that this is also a breach of law that apprehended Avant Garde. If permission has been granted to Avant Garde to proceed, then I suggest that investigations be carried out after apprehending those granted permission. Maintaining such floating armouries is not only a threat to Sri Lanka, it is also a threat to neighbouring India. Therefore, this becomes a South Asian regional issue. This is a threat to the region itself. Therefore, the government has to treat this as a major issue.